All right, so today I want to do a quick study on First Corinthians 8, and I want to call this um, Having Knowledge but Still Leaving Room for Sin. So if you want to join me, I'm reading First Corinthians 8 out of the NIV version. Now, about food sacrificed to idols. We know that we all possess knowledge, but knowledge puffs up, while love builds up. Those who think they know something do not yet know as they ought to know. But whoever loves God is known by God. So then, about eating food sacrificed to idols. We know that an idol is nothing at all in the world, but that there is no God but one. So, for even if there are so called gods, whether in heaven or on earth, as indeed there are many gods and many lords, yet for us there is but one God, the Father, from whom all things come and from whom we live, and there is but one Lord, Jesus Christ, through whom all things come and through whom we live. But not everyone possesses this knowledge. Some people are still so amused to idols that when they eat sacrificial food, they think of it as having been sacrificed to a god. And since their conscience is weak, it is defiled. But food does not bring us near to God. We are no worse if we do not eat, and no better if we do. Be careful, however, that the exercise of your rights does not become a stumbling block to the weak. For if someone with a weak conscience sees you, with all your knowledge, eating in an idol's temple, won't that person be emboldened to eat what is sacrificed to idols? So, this week, brothers and sisters, from whom Christ died is destroyed by your knowledge. When you sin against them in this way, and wound their weak conscience, your sin against Christ. Therefore, if what I eat causes my brother or sister to fall into sin, I will never eat meat again, so that I will not cause them to fall. Again, that's 1 Corinthians 8. So some key verses I take out of this is verse 1, kind of part 2 of verse 1. We all possess knowledge, but knowledge puffs up while love builds up. Verse 3 says, but whoever loves God is known by God. Verse 9 says, be careful, however, that the exercise of your rights does not become a stumbling block to the weak. Verse 13 reads, therefore, if what I eat causes my brother or sister to fall into sin, I will never eat meat again, so that I will not cause them to fall. 1 Corinthians 8 is a little confusing. But one of the big points I want to really talk about is that we all can have knowledge, and we can still leave room for sin. Sadly, we are pretty good at leading others to sin. And as we read the different verses, we see that we all have this knowledge, as talked about in verse 1, that knowledge puffs up and while love builds up. And if someone you know is struggling with a problem right now, it is probably a good thing to show some love to them and just be there for them. And it wasn't until recently I really started coming out of dealing with some self problems that I've found in myself here. If someone you know is struggling with alcohol or drinking, it isn't loving to them to take them somewhere and place a beer in front of them, or even drink in front of them. Yes, you have the right to drink, but if it causes your brother or sister, Christian, to stumble or fall into this sin, it's not worth it. But here's something else. Others will not know where you're at in this certain circumstance if you do not have a relationship with them and you're not open with them and share. We need to be able to communicate with others. Struggles are real. We all have them. For me, I used to really enjoy getting off work and enjoying a beer. And I don't drink to get drunk, but sometimes it often would lead to that. It wasn't until really recently, within the last year or so, I started realizing that coming home from work and enjoying a beer is one thing, but coming home every day and craving that beer, and then you wake up and you want that beer, it isn't worth it. I knew it was a problem, and I haven't drank since. Like me, many will deal with similar issues. And yes, I still have the right to go drink a beer. Or anything. But it isn't right for me to do so. Because I know where that will lead me. So the next time you're inviting others into your circle, maybe you're inviting them to hang out, maybe it's you're talking to them, just be aware. Be careful not to cause someone to stumble. We are called to share the gospel, but it is hard to share the gospel to someone when they've built walls up because of the way you talk or the way you act. You know, I see it often even with Christians. Christians are doing things that are not very Christian. And I get it, we're humans, we make mistakes, but is it causing others to stumble? You know, we're told the two greatest commandments are to love God and equally important, love others. Verse 3 says, "But whoever loves God is known by God." Do you really want to be known by God? Do you want to love others? What are some of your personal convictions? What are your personal convictions about this? Just remember the two greatest commandments are love God and equally important, love others. It's pretty simple. Is what you are doing impacting someone else in a negative way? Is it causing others to drink drugs? Maybe they have self-conscious issues and here you are bashing them. Is it really worth it? Is what you are doing worth it? I will challenge you that most of us in our lives have at least one area we need to work on. And I want to share that I send messages sometimes to friends just to check in on them. That's loving, in my opinion. But what follows it, I have to be careful. If I'm messaging females, you have to be careful because some topics need to be discussed only with females. Some discussions with guys need to be discussed with guys. That's a part of loving God, and equally important, love others. So as we conclude this, I just want to really jump back to these verses we started with. And just be careful with what rights you have. Verse 9 says, "Be careful, however, that the exercise of your rights does not become a stumbling block to the weak." Verse 13 says, "Therefore, if what I eat causes my brother or sister to fall into sin, or what I take in," not necessarily food, but what I take in, does it cause somebody to sin? "I will never eat meat again." Or, "I will never do that again." I do not, the last part of the verse is, "so that I will not cause them to fall." We want to show love to others. Having knowledge is one thing, but it can still lead to sin. We need to change our mindset from just having the knowledge to actually living the knowledge, to not allow room for sin in our own lives or others. We're not perfect, but we need to strive as much as possible to love others. Is it hard sometimes? It can be. But we all possess the knowledge. But knowledge puffs up while love builds up. Have a great rest of your day.